The notification chimed on my phone at 4:47 p.m. on a Friday that started like any other. Tessa's message was brief, apologetic, and perfectly crafted, the kind of lie that comes naturally after months of practice. Warren, staying at Mom's tonight. She's having chest pains again. Don't wait up. Love you. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at the screen from my desk at Morrison Supply Chain, where I'd spent the last 8 years managing inventory for a company that sold industrial fasteners to manufacturers across the Midwest. Not exactly glamorous work, but it paid well enough to afford our 3-bedroom colonial in West Des Moines and Tessa's event planning business. My wife, Tessa Baird, she kept her maiden name for professional reasons, had been having a lot of family emergencies lately. Her mother's mysterious ailments seemed to coincide perfectly with my weekend plans. Last month, it was a migraine during our anniversary dinner. 2 weeks ago, food poisoning during my company picnic. I typed back, "Tell your mom I hope she feels better. Should I bring anything?" The response came faster than expected. "No, she just needs rest. I'll call you tomorrow." The exclamation point felt aggressive. Tessa usually wrote in complete sentences with proper punctuation, occupational hazard of planning corporate events where every detail mattered. But lately, her texts had become clipped, urgent, defensive. I locked my computer and grabbed my jacket. Greg Morrison, the owner's son, and technically my boss, was heading out too. "Another weekend in paradise, Warren?" Greg asked, jingling his keys. He was one of those guys who inherited a successful business and somehow managed not to ruin it, which made him tolerable company. Tessa's at her mother's place. Chest pains. Greg raised an eyebrow. "Again?" Mrs. Baird's got more medical emergencies than a soap opera character. I forced a laugh, but Greg's comment stuck with me during the 20-minute drive home. Our neighborhood was the kind of place where people knew each other's business, not in a malicious way, but in that comfortable suburban fashion where borrowed lawnmowers and shared gossip were equally common currency. Pete Kowalski was washing his Jeep in his driveway when I pulled up. Pete worked third shift at the John Deere plant and had an encyclopedic knowledge of everyone's comings and goings. "Hey, Warren," he called out, wringing out his sponge. "Tessa left pretty early today. Around noon, I think. Had that big suitcase with her." A suitcase? For one night at her mother's house, 20 minutes away. "Thanks, Pete." I kept my voice neutral, but something cold settled in my stomach. Inside our house, I noticed details I'd been unconsciously ignoring. Tessa's good jewelry was missing from the bedroom dresser. Her favorite perfume, the expensive stuff she only wore for special occasions, was gone from the bathroom counter. The overnight bag she usually took to her mother's was still in our closet. I opened our laptop and checked our shared calendar. No mention of her mother's health issues. No doctor's appointments scheduled. Then I checked our joint credit card account. The charges told a story I didn't want to read. The Marriott downtown, charged yesterday. Dinner for 2 at Fleming's Steakhouse, a place Tessa always said was too expensive for just the two of us. A wine bar on the east side of town, nowhere near her mother's house. I scrolled back through the previous month. More hotel charges, more dinners, a pattern emerging like a photograph developing in solution, revealing an image I'd been too trusting or too stupid to see. My phone buzzed. A text from Janice Kellerman, Tessa's best friend and business partner. "Hope Tessa's mom is feeling better. Tell her we're thinking of her after that romantic getaway she needed so badly." Romantic getaway. The words hit like a physical blow. I called Janice immediately. "Warren, hi, how are you?" Her voice was bright, artificially cheerful. "Janice, what getaway are you talking about?" A pause. Too long. "Oh, I just meant, the stress relief, with her mom being sick and all." "Her mom's sick right now. Tonight. Tessa's there now." Another pause. "Right. Of course. That's what I meant. The stress of her mom being sick. She needed to get away from that stress, earlier this week." Janice was many things. Successful event coordinator, devoted friend, excellent party planner, but she was a terrible liar. "Janice, where is my wife?" Warren, I really think you should talk to Tessa about this." "I'm talking to you. Right now. Where is she?" The line went quiet except for Janice's breathing. "I can't." "Warren, please, just call Tessa." She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the phone, pieces clicking into place. The late nights, networking with potential clients. The weekend conferences that never seemed to generate new business. The way she'd started password protecting her phone and laptop. The way she'd stopped looking me in the eye when she said, "I love you." I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, the good stuff we saved for celebrations, and opened our photo albums on the laptop. There was Tessa at last month's Chamber of Commerce mixer, radiant in a red dress I'd never seen before. She was talking to someone just outside the frame, her body language animated, flirtatious. I zoomed in on the reflection in the window behind her, a man's silhouette, tall and lean. Then I remembered Eli Garner. Tessa had mentioned him casually over the past few months. A former colleague from her old job at Premier Events, now working for some tech startup downtown. He'd hired her company for a product launch, then a corporate retreat, then a holiday party. He really appreciates quality work, she'd said. Finally, a client who understands what professional event planning is worth. I found Eli's company website. There he was in the About Us section. Eli Garner, Director of Business Development, 39 years old, divorced, marathon runner. The kind of guy who wore expensive watches and drove German cars. The kind of guy my wife was apparently spending our money to have romantic dinners with. I finished my bourbon and made a decision. Tomorrow was Saturday. I'd drive to Mrs. Baird's house with groceries and flowers, playing the concerned son-in-law. If Tessa was really there taking care of her sick mother, I'd apologize for being paranoid, and we'd work through whatever problems we were having. If she wasn't there, well, then we'd have a different kind of conversation. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. I'd slept maybe 3 hours, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling and running through scenarios in my head. Each one ended badly. I stopped at Hy-Vee and bought the kind of groceries you bring to someone who's been sick. Chicken soup, saltines, ginger ale, fresh flowers. The checkout girl smiled and said, "Someone's lucky to have you taking care of them." If only she knew. Mrs. Baird lived in a tidy ranch house in Urbandale, about 15 minutes from us. She'd never particularly liked me. I wasn't successful enough, wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't good enough for her daughter. But we maintained a polite relationship built on mutual tolerance and shared affection for Tessa. I rang the doorbell at 10:30 a.m., grocery bags in hand. Mrs. Baird answered the door in gardening clothes, dirt under her fingernails, looking healthier than I'd seen her in months. "Warren, what are you doing here?" "I brought some things for you. Tessa said you were having chest pains." Her face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, realization, then something that looked like pity. "Warren, honey, I haven't seen Tessa in 3 weeks, and I feel fine. Come inside." The groceries suddenly felt very heavy in my hands. Mrs. Baird's living room was immaculate, as always. Family photos covered every surface. Tessa's wedding pictures, her college graduation, holidays, and birthdays spanning 38 years. In every recent photo, Tessa looked radiant, successful, happy. I wondered when she'd stopped being happy with me. "Sit down," Mrs. Baird said, her voice gentler than usual. "Tell me what's going on." I explained about the text, the credit card charges, the mysterious emergencies. Mrs. Baird listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. "That little fool," she finally said. "I raised her better than this." "So you think she's—" "I think my daughter is making the biggest mistake of her life." Mrs. Baird stood up and walked to her kitchen. "Would you like some coffee? This conversation requires caffeine." While she made coffee, I called Tessa. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Warren, is everything okay? It's early." "It's 10:45. How's your mom feeling?" "Oh, much better. The chest pain stopped around midnight. I think it was just stress." "That's good to hear. I'm sure she'll be relieved." "What do you mean?" I put the phone on speaker and gestured for Mrs. Baird to come closer. "I mean, I'm sure your mother will be relieved to know her chest pains have stopped, since I'm sitting in her living room right now, and she's been wondering where you are for the past 3 weeks." The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Tessa?" Mrs. Baird's voice was ice cold. "Would you like to explain to your husband and your mother exactly where you are?" Mom? Warren, what are you... I can explain." "We're listening," I said. There was a mix-up. I meant Aunt Carol. Aunt Carol was having chest pains. In Cedar Rapids. I drove up there last night." Mrs. Baird's sister Carol had passed away 2 years ago. Tessa had spoken at her funeral. "Tessa," Mrs. Baird said slowly, "Carol is gone. You gave a eulogy at her funeral." Another long pause. Then, "I have to go. Warren, we'll talk when I get home." "When will that be?" "Tonight. Late. Don't wait up." She hung up. Mrs. Baird and I sat in her kitchen, drinking coffee and contemplating the wreckage of my marriage. Outside, it had started raining harder. "I'm sorry, Warren. I'm sorry my daughter is a liar and a fool." "It's not your fault, isn't it? Maybe I should have taught her that actions have consequences. Maybe I made things too easy for her." I thought about that. Tessa had always been the golden child, beautiful, smart, successful. She'd gotten her first job through a family connection, started her business with money from her trust fund, married me when I was the safe, stable choice after a string of exciting but unreliable boyfriends. Maybe she'd decided safe and stable wasn't enough anymore. "What are you going to do?" Mrs. Baird asked. "I don't know yet." But I was lying. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I drove home through the rain, my mind working through logistics. First, I needed more evidence. Then, I needed a plan. And then, I needed to execute that plan with the same methodical precision I used to manage supply chains. Back home, I opened our laptop again and really dug into our financial records. The pattern was even worse than I'd initially thought. Hotel charges going back 4 months. Expensive dinners. A weekend trip to Kansas City I knew nothing about. Even a charge at Victoria's Secret. Lingerie I'd never seen. She'd been spending our money to conduct her affair. Our money that came primarily from my job, since her event planning business barely broke even most months. I screenshotted everything and saved it to a secure folder. Next, I called my college roommate Danny Chen, who'd become a divorce attorney in downtown Des Moines. "Warren, how's married life treating you?" "That's actually why I'm calling. Hypothetically, if someone's spouse was having an affair and using joint funds to pay for it, what would that mean in a divorce proceeding?" A long pause. "Jesus, Warren, are we talking about Tessa?" "Hypothetically. Hypothetically, Iowa is a no-fault divorce state, but financial misconduct during the marriage can absolutely affect asset division. Hypothetically, if someone has documented proof of a spouse using marital funds for an extramarital relationship, that someone could be in a very strong position." "What kind of proof?" "Credit card statements, hotel receipts, restaurant bills, photos, text messages, recorded phone calls, though be careful about recording laws. Iowa is a one-party consent state, so you can record conversations you're part of, but you can't record conversations between other people without their knowledge." "Good to know. Hypothetically." "Warren, if this isn't hypothetical, you need to be smart about this. Document everything, but don't do anything stupid. Don't confront the other guy, don't make threats, don't destroy property. Keep your hands clean and let the evidence speak for itself." "Thanks, Danny. I owe you a beer." "You owe me a lot more than a beer if you need my professional services." After hanging up, I sat in my home office and created a plan. I opened a new document and titled it Project Reckoning. Step 1, gather evidence. Step 2, secure assets. Step 3, legal preparation. Step 4, social exposure. Step 5, execute revenge. I was still working on the details when Pete knocked on my door around 6 p.m. "Hey, Warren, sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know. Tessa's car is parked at the Meridian Apartments downtown. Building C, 3rd floor. My nephew lives there, and he mentioned seeing it there a lot lately." The Meridian Apartments. Upscale. Expensive. The kind of place young professionals lived when they wanted to impress people. "Thanks, Pete. I appreciate you looking out for me." "No problem. And Warren, whatever's going on, you've got friends in this neighborhood. Don't forget that." After Pete left, I looked up the Meridian Apartments online. Their website showed luxury 1- and 2-bedroom units with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The kind of place that would appeal to a tech company director who wanted to project success. I found the resident directory. 3rd floor, Unit 3C, Eli Garner. So now I had a name, an address, and a growing pile of evidence. What I needed next was a strategy that would destroy both of them without landing me in jail. I poured another bourbon and got back to work on Project Reckoning. Sunday morning brought sunshine and clarity. I woke up early, made coffee, and reviewed my plan. The evidence was overwhelming, the strategy was sound, and I felt calmer than I had in months. There's something therapeutic about having a clear objective and the tools to achieve it. Tessa came home around 11 a.m. looking guilty and defiant in equal measure. She'd clearly prepared for this conversation during her drive. "Warren, we need to talk." "Yes, we do. Sit down." She perched on the edge of our couch like she was ready to flee. Her hair was different, styled in a way I didn't recognize. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen, expensive looking. "I know you're upset about yesterday, but I can explain." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Before you say another word, I want you to know that I've spent the weekend doing research. I know about Eli Garner. I know about the hotels, the dinners, the trips. I know about the Meridian Apartments. So please, for once in the past 4 months, tell me the truth." Her face went white, then red, then white again. "How did you—" "Warren, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The only question is whether you're going to be honest about it or keep lying to my face." She started crying, Not the genuine tears of remorse, but the calculated crying she used when she wanted sympathy. I'd seen her use it on difficult clients. Warren, I never meant for this to happen. It developed over time. Eli understands my work. He appreciates what I do. We have so much in common. You have so much in common that you've been spending our money on hotel rooms and fancy dinners. It's my money too. Money that comes from my job to pay for your affair. Do you understand how that feels? She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara. I know it looks bad, but Warren, we've been growing apart for years. You have to admit that. We're like roommates, not husband and wife. So, instead of talking to me about it, you decided to start sleeping with someone else. She flinched. I never used that kind of language with her, and we both knew it. Don't be crude. Don't be crude. Tessa, you've been lying to me for months. You've been using our joint accounts to pay for your romantic getaways. You lied to your own mother yesterday, but I'm being crude? She stood up, her tears stopping as quickly as they'd started. I want a divorce. Good. So do I. That surprised her. She'd expected me to fight for her, to beg her to stay, to promise I'd change. Instead, I was agreeing with her. Okay, I think that's best for both of us. I'm sure you do. I'm sure Eli thinks so too. She winced at his name. This isn't about Eli. Everything about this is about Eli, but don't worry. You'll be free to be with him soon enough. After she left to think things over at Janice's house, I put the next phase of my plan into motion. Monday morning, I called Danny and made an appointment for that afternoon. Then I called my bank and opened a new checking account, transferring half of our joint savings. Legally, it was my right to do so, and I wanted to make sure I had access to funds regardless of what Tessa might try. Next, I called our credit card companies and removed Tessa as an authorized user on my personal cards. She could keep the joint card for now, but I wanted to limit any damage she might do out of spite. Then I drove to Danny's office. Jesus, Warren, you look like hell. I feel worse than I look, but I'm ready to do this right. Danny's office was in a converted warehouse in the East Village, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. He specialized in divorce law and had a reputation for being thorough and ruthless when necessary. I laid out everything, the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the phone records showing calls to Eli's number, the photos Pete had taken of Tessa's car at the Meridian Apartments. This is good, Danny said, reviewing the documents. Very good. She's been using marital assets to conduct an extramarital affair, which gives us significant leverage in asset division. What's the timeline? I can file the papers this week. Iowa has a 90-day waiting period, but we can get temporary orders for asset protection and support. Given the evidence of financial misconduct, I think we can make a strong case for you retaining the house and the majority of liquid assets. What about her business? That's trickier. If it was established during the marriage with marital funds, you might have a claim to part of it. But honestly, from what you've told me about its profitability, it might not be worth pursuing. We spent 2 hours going through the details. Danny would file for divorce on Wednesday, citing irreconcilable differences but including the financial misconduct documentation. He'd also prepare a motion for temporary exclusive use of the marital home and protection of assets. One more thing, Danny said as I was leaving. Don't contact Eli Garner directly. Don't go to his apartment, don't call him, don't confront him. I know it's tempting, but it can only hurt your case. I agreed, but I was lying. I had no intention of letting Eli Garner walk away from this unscathed. Tuesday evening, I drove to the Meridian Apartments. The building was exactly what I'd expected. All glass and steel, trying too hard to look sophisticated. The parking garage was secured, but the main lobby was accessible. I waited in my car until I saw Eli arrive in a silver Audi A4. He was tall, lean, wearing an expensive suit, and carrying a leather briefcase. The kind of guy who probably had a gym membership he actually used and a wine collection he actually understood. I followed him into the lobby, timing it so we'd end up on the same elevator. "Excuse me," I said as the doors closed. "You're Eli Garner, right?" He looked at me with polite confusion. "Yes. Do we know each other?" "I'm Warren Hale, Tessa's husband." The color drained from his face. The elevator suddenly felt very small. "Oh, Hello? Hello?" I pressed the stop button, and the elevator lurched to a halt between floors. "What are you doing?" "I'm having a conversation with the man who's been sleeping with my wife." I kept my voice calm, conversational. "I thought it was time we met." "Look, Warren. Can I call you Warren? This is a complicated situation." "It's really not. You've been sleeping with a married woman and helping her spend her husband's money on hotel rooms. It's actually quite simple." He was sweating now, despite the air conditioning. I think maybe we should talk about this somewhere else. I think we should talk about it right here, right now. I stepped closer to him. How long has it been going on? I don't think that's... How long, Eli? 4 months, maybe 5. And did it occur to you during those 4 or 5 months that she was married? That she was using money that wasn't hers to pay for your dates? She said you two were separated. She said you were getting divorced. She lied. She's very good at lying. You'll figure that out eventually. I pressed the button to restart the elevator. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, I stepped out with him. Which apartment is yours, Eli? I don't think you should... 3C. I already know. I just wanted to see if you'd lie too. We walked down the hallway to his door. He fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking slightly. Warren, I want you to know that I never intended for this to happen. Tessa and I, we just connected. Sometimes these things... Stop talking. He stopped talking. Here's what's going to happen, Eli. Tomorrow my lawyer is filing for divorce. Tessa is going to lose the house, most of our assets, and probably her business. She's going to need someone to take care of her. Congratulations. You just became responsible for a 38-year-old woman with no money and a lot of expensive tastes. I don't understand. You will. And Eli, if I ever see you again, if you ever contact me, if you ever come near my house or my neighborhood, I will make your life very difficult. Do you understand that? He nodded. Good. Enjoy your evening. I left him standing in his hallway, looking like a man who'd just realized he'd made a terrible mistake. Driving home, I felt better than I had in weeks. Phase 3 of Project Reckoning was complete. Now it was time for Phase 4, social exposure. Because destroying Tessa and Eli financially wasn't enough. I wanted everyone to know what they'd done. Wednesday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel possible. I dressed carefully, my best suit, the tie Tessa had bought me for our anniversary, shoes polished to a mirror shine. If today was going to be the beginning of the end, I wanted to look the part. Danny called at 9 a.m. Papers are filed. The process server will deliver them to Tessa at her office around 2 p.m. Are you ready for this? I've been ready since Sunday. Remember, once this starts, there's no going back. She's going to be angry, probably vindictive. Don't engage with her emotionally. Let the lawyers handle everything. Understood. But I had no intention of letting lawyers handle everything. They could manage the legal aspects, but the social consequences, those required a more personal touch. I spent the morning at work, trying to focus on inventory reports and supplier negotiations. Greg noticed my distraction. You okay, Warren? You seem a little off today. Just some personal stuff I'm working through. Anything I can help with? I considered telling him the truth. Greg was a good guy, and he'd be supportive. But I wanted to control the narrative, and that meant timing the revelations carefully. Thanks, but I've got it handled. At 2:15 p.m., my phone rang. Tessa's name appeared on the screen. Warren, what the hell is this? A process server just came to my office and served me divorce papers in front of my entire staff. I assume they're self-explanatory. You couldn't have had them delivered to the house? You had to humiliate me at work? Like you humiliated me by lying about where you were spending your nights. That's different. No, Tessa, it's exactly the same, except now everyone knows what you really are. She was crying again, but this time it sounded genuine. Warren, please. Can't we work this out? Can't we try counseling or something? You should have thought about counseling before you started sleeping with Eli Garner. Don't say his name. Why? Are you ashamed of him? Because if you're ashamed of him, maybe you shouldn't have been sleeping with him. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Janice called. Warren, Tessa is devastated. She's in my office crying her eyes out. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? Janice, she's been lying to both of us for months. She used you to cover for her affair. She made you complicit in her deception. And you're worried about me being harsh? A pause. I didn't know she was lying about her mother. But you knew about Eli. Another pause, longer this time. Janice, you helped her cover up an affair. You lied to me directly when I asked you about it. So don't call me and lecture me about being harsh. I was trying to protect my friend. You were trying to protect a liar and a cheat. There's a difference. I hung up on her too. By Thursday morning, word had spread through Tessa's professional network. The event planning community in Des Moines was small and gossipy, and a public divorce filing involving financial misconduct was exactly the kind of scandal that traveled fast. My phone rang at 10 a.m. Mrs. Baird. Warren, I heard about the divorce papers. I want you to know that I support your decision completely. Thank you. That means a lot. I also want you to know that I've called Tessa and told her exactly what I think of her behavior. She won't be welcome in my house until she grows up and takes responsibility for what she's done. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She's my daughter, but what she did to you is unforgivable. And the lying, Warren, I raised her better than this. That afternoon, I got a call from Pete. Warren, I hope you don't mind, but I mentioned to a few of the neighbors what's been going on. We all want you to know we're on your side. I appreciate that, Pete. Also, I saw that Audi at Eli's place again today. Same guy you told me about? Same guy. Want me to keep an eye on things? That would be helpful. On Friday evening, I decided it was time for Phase 5, direct action. I drove to the Meridian Apartments again, but this time I came prepared. In my trunk were 2 bags of cat litter, a gallon of milk that had been sitting in my garage for a week, and a can of spray paint. I waited until Eli left for what looked like a dinner date, probably with Tessa, though I couldn't be sure. Then I went to work. The milk went into his air conditioning intake. The cat litter went under his windshield wipers and into the gap between his hood and windshield. The spray paint went on his driver's side door. HOMEWRECKER in bright red letters. It was petty, vindictive, and completely satisfying. I was back home by 9 p.m., drinking bourbon and watching a movie when my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Warren Hale? Depends who's asking. This is Eli Garner. Someone vandalized my car tonight, and I think you know something about it. I'm sorry to hear about your car trouble, Eli. That's terrible. Cut the shit, Warren. I know it was you. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? A long pause. No, but then I'd be careful about making accusations you can't support. That sounds like slander to me. This isn't over. You're absolutely right about that. He hung up. Saturday morning brought the consequences I'd been hoping for. Tessa called, hysterical. Warren, Eli thinks you vandalized his car. Did I? Did you? I spent Friday evening at home, drinking bourbon and watching Netflix. I have the viewing history to prove it. He says someone poured sour milk in his air vents and put cat litter on his windshield. That sounds unpleasant. Warren, please. This has to stop. Can't we handle this like adults? Adults don't have affairs, Tessa. Adults don't lie to their spouses for months. Adults don't use joint credit cards to pay for hotel rooms with their lovers. I'll pay you back every penny. With what money? Your business is failing? You're about to lose the house, and your boyfriend's car smells like rotten milk. Where exactly are you going to get the money? She was crying again. I made a mistake, Warren. I know I made a mistake. But this isn't you. You're not vindictive. You're not cruel. You're right. The Warren you married wasn't vindictive or cruel. But that Warren trusted his wife. That Warren believed the woman he loved when she said she was taking care of her sick mother. You eliminated that Warren, Tessa. What you've got now is what's left. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the man whose wife slept with another guy and used our money to pay for it. I'm the man who's going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. What does that mean? It means this is just the beginning. I hung up and started planning Phase 6 because I wasn't done with either of them, not even close. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings, social media warfare, and carefully orchestrated public humiliation. Danny's strategy was working perfectly. The evidence of financial misconduct was overwhelming, and the judge had granted temporary orders giving me exclusive use of the house and freezing most of our joint assets. But the legal victory was just the foundation. What I really wanted was to destroy their reputations, their relationship, and their futures. It started with social media. I created a detailed post on Facebook, laying out the timeline of Tessa's affair with receipts, photos, and screenshots. I tagged all of our mutual friends, her business contacts, and her family members. After 12 years of marriage, I've discovered that my wife Tessa has been having an affair with Eli Garner while using our joint accounts to pay for their romantic getaways. I'm sharing this because I believe people should know who they're doing business with. The attached documents speak for themselves. The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in, some supportive, some shocked, some gleefully scandalized. Tessa's business Facebook page was flooded with negative reviews and angry comments. Her professional reputation, built over 15 years, crumbled in a single day. Eli didn't escape unscathed either. I found his company's website and left detailed reviews on every platform I could find, explaining how their director of business development had conducted an affair with a married client and helped her embezzle marital funds. By Wednesday, his LinkedIn profile had been deactivated. Thursday brought the confrontation I'd been waiting for. Tessa showed up at the house, Our house, though legally it was mine now, around 7 p.m. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, no makeup, wearing clothes that looked like she'd slept in them. "Warren, you have to stop this. You're destroying my life." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just telling people the truth." "The truth? You're making me sound like a monster." "You are a monster, Tessa. You're a liar, a cheat, and a thief. You stole from our marriage. You stole from our joint accounts. And you stole 12 years of my life." She collapsed onto the couch we'd picked out together, the couch where we'd watched movies and planned our future. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I know I made mistakes, but Warren, what you're doing is cruel. People are calling me names, my clients are canceling contracts, my own family won't talk to me. Actions have consequences. Not like this. This is sociopathic." I sat down across from her, studying her face. Once upon a time, I'd thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Now I just saw weakness, selfishness, and entitlement. "Do you want to know what sociopathic behavior looks like, Tessa? It's lying to your husband's face for months while you sleep with another man. It's using money he earned to pay for hotel rooms with your lover. It's making your best friend complicit in your deception. It's lying to your own mother about where you are and what you're doing." I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far, and now you get to live with the consequences. She wiped her nose with her sleeve. "What about Eli? He didn't deserve what you did to his car." "Eli is a grown man who chose to sleep with a married woman. He knew you were married, he knew you were using your husband's money to pay for your dates, and he did it anyway. He deserves everything he gets and more. He loves me. He loves the idea of you. Wait until you're broke and homeless and dependent on him for everything. Let's see how much he loves you then." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "I don't know who you are anymore." "I'm exactly who I've always been. I'm just not pretending anymore that you deserve my kindness or my protection." She left without another word. Friday brought news from Danny. Eli had hired a lawyer and was threatening to sue me for harassment and property damage. His car had required $3,000 in repairs to remove the smell of sour milk from the ventilation system. "Let him sue," I told Danny. "He'll have to prove I did it, and he can't. Besides, discovery works both ways. If he wants to drag this into court, we'll subpoena his phone records, his financial records, his communications with Tessa. Let's see how much he wants to expose his personal life to legal scrutiny." Danny laughed. "You're getting good at this." I'm motivated. The following week brought the final phase of my plan, the neighborhood barbecue. Every year, our subdivision held a block party in late October, a last hurrah before winter set in. Normally, Tessa and I would host together, providing food and drinks for 30 or 40 neighbors. This year, I decided to host alone. I sent out invitations explaining that while Tessa wouldn't be attending due to personal circumstances, I hoped everyone would still come. I promised burgers, beer, and some interesting stories about what's been happening in the neighborhood lately. The turnout was bigger than expected. Word had spread about the divorce, and people were curious. Pete and his wife came, along with the Johnsons from across the street, the Martinez family from 2 doors down, and at least 20 other neighbors I knew by sight, if not by name. Around 6 p.m., as people were finishing their burgers and starting on their second beers, I tapped a knife against my bottle to get everyone's attention. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight, especially given the circumstances. I know there's been a lot of gossip about what's been happening with Tessa and me, and I thought you deserved to hear the truth directly." The crowd quieted down, sensing drama. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that my wife had been having an affair for the past 5 months. She'd been lying about where she was spending her time, using our joint credit cards to pay for hotel rooms and romantic dinners with her lover, and involving mutual friends in covering up her deception. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people looked shocked, others nodded like they'd suspected something. I'm telling you this because Tessa was part of this community. She organized fundraisers, she helped plan neighborhood events, she borrowed your lawnmowers and fed your cats when you were out of town. I thought you should know what kind of person she really is. Mrs. Johnson raised her hand. "Warren, we're all sorry this happened to you, but isn't this kind of personal to be sharing at a block party?" "You're right, it is personal. But when someone uses community trust to cover up lies and deception, it becomes everyone's business. When someone takes advantage of friendships to enable adultery, it affects the whole community." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the portable speaker I'd been using for music. "I have a recording I'd like you to hear. This is from a phone call Tessa made to me last week." I played the audio of our conversation from Thursday night, her admitting to the affair, her excuses, her self-pity. The crowd listened in uncomfortable silence. When it ended, Pete spoke up. "Jesus, Warren, I'm sorry you had to go through that." "Thank you. I appreciate everyone's support during this difficult time." The party continued for another hour, but the mood had shifted. People were sympathetic but also uncomfortable, like they'd witnessed something too intimate for public consumption. As people were leaving, Mrs. Martinez pulled me aside. "Warren, I understand you're hurt, but that was pretty harsh. Maybe you should think about talking to someone, getting some help processing all this anger." "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." But she was right about one thing. I probably should talk to someone. Because standing there in my backyard, surrounded by the debris of my destroyed marriage, I realized I felt empty rather than victorious. The revenge had been complete, systematic, and devastating. Tessa's business was ruined, her reputation was destroyed, her relationship with Eli was crumbling under the pressure of public scrutiny and financial stress. She'd lost her home, most of her assets, and the respect of her community. I'd won every battle and achieved every objective. So why did I feel like I'd lost something essential about myself in the process? Monday morning brought the final piece of news I'd been waiting for. Pete called while I was getting ready for work. "Warren, thought you should know. There's a moving truck at the Meridian Apartments. Looks like your friend Eli is relocating." "Where's he going?" "Don't know, but he's loading up everything he owns. Tessa's there too, helping him pack." I drove by the Meridian on my way to work. Sure enough, there was a U-Haul truck in the parking lot, and I could see Tessa carrying boxes down from the third floor. She looked thin, tired, defeated. Part of me, a small part, felt sorry for her, but mostly I felt satisfied. They were running away, leaving town, starting over somewhere else where no one knew their story. It was exactly what I'd wanted: complete social exile, total destruction of their lives in Des Moines. That evening, I sat in my empty house, my house now, legally and completely, and opened a bottle of the good bourbon. The house felt different without Tessa's things, without her presence. Bigger, but also emptier. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Warren, this is Tessa. I'm leaving town tomorrow. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for everything I did to you, to us, to our marriage. I know you'll never forgive me, and I understand why. I hope someday you can find happiness again. I hope someday you can remember the good times we had before I ruined everything." I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Outside, it was starting to snow, the first snow of the season, covering the neighborhood in clean white silence. I stood at my kitchen window, looking out at the street where Tessa and I had walked our dog, where we'd talked about having children someday, where we'd planned a future that no longer existed. Tomorrow, I would wake up in a house that was entirely mine, with bank accounts that were entirely mine, in a community where everyone knew I'd been wronged and she'd been punished. I'd gotten everything I'd wanted. The question now was what to do with the rest of my life. I finished my bourbon, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the tracks and erasing the evidence of everything that had come before.